I'm Josh Umbers. I'm editor of Nexus magazine. I'm here with David Bennett, your local MP for Hamilton East for the National Party, and we're going to talk all things politics today.
Yeah, g'day Josh, and good day everyone. Pleased to be here, and thank you very much for the invitation. Just wanted to say to everyone, make sure you enrol, get out there and vote, whatever happens. But do that, and we look forward to seeing what happens on election day.
Yeah, me too. How's it going? It's good to talk to you. So how's your campaign been going?
It's been up and down, really. We had it's been a stop-start campaign for a couple of reasons. You've had COVID there.
Yeah.
That sort of put everyone into level 4 and then coming back into level 1 and then sort of in a mid-area now of level 2. So that really stops the ability to campaign like you normally would. So there's no big meetings, there's no door knocking, there's so really just down to signs, pamphlets and phone calls. Yeah. That's about all you can do. And so that's been pretty disruptive, but then also you've got on the other side National Party's had a few changes in the last couple of months, which have also been a little bit disruptive as well, but we're through all that stuff now.
Yeah, we'll get to
that. So I thought I'd leave it to you, but just
we'll have a few...
Get out of the way early, mate.
We'll have a few more, generic questions so how did you get into politics?
Well, I joined the National Party and got the nomination for Hamilton East. Before that, I had studied law, but then I went worked at KPMG for a few years and then went dairy farming. So I went out of the sort of the law side and went into farming. So into my own business, and that sort of National Party values pretty instilled when you're in your own business. And I was president of Young Farmers, and so that sort of got me back into the political side of it, you could say. And then I got onto the board of the National Party. In 2002, we got sort of pretty smashed as a party, and so we went for a new structure, which was an elected board, and I was lucky enough to get on there, and that sort of gave me the start to go through.
So you've touched on your careers before this. Do you have any current side hustles?
Side hustles
apart from farming?
Farming. So doing a bit of dairy farming, a little bit of kiwi fruit, and so we've got some organic dairy going on. So just getting into the last month of that before we're fully certified for that, and grow a little bit of figs. Yeah.
So you're still quite hands-on with the farming, or are you farm managers?
They do everything. I just go out there and pay the bills and deal with all the hassles if there are any, but they're very good, so I'm very lucky I've got good people there that do a great job. So
So what's your favourite thing to do outside of work?
It would be the farming, actually. I like that. It's just get out, do some fencing. I always save up a bit of fencing for after the election. So I can just think it's Winston there when I'm whacking the post. And just see his head on top of those waratahs and you're whacking him with it. It just makes your day much easier. And so now I like doing that. So that gives you a bit of time to do some physical work.
Keeps you in shape.
Well, I don't know about in shape. Gives you some physical work.
And
so I enjoy that. And you're building something. I guess I quite like to build things. And also used to play a bit of football. We haven't played this year though. So that's something I like to do in the spare time too.
Yeah. Cool. What was the last book you read?
Don't know if I've read a book for a long time. But I can't remember what I've read last.
What was the last movie you watched?
That would have been. I sort of can remember it was. I just watched it on Sky on Friday night. It was dodgy. It was. It was The Godfather 3 actually. It was on late at night. Just felt like it. Bit of Italian mafia. It just reminds you of politics and a good day. There was Godfather 3. But normally wouldn't watch that. But it was cool. Mine was 11 o'clock at night sort of thing.
Was it with someone special?
No, I was actually just watching it alone. I was a long day of delivering pamphlets and working hard.
Just wanted to put your legs up.
Fair
enough.
Yeah.
When did you start going bald?
Well, that would have been probably university. So, any of the guys there that just started to lose it around 2021. Well, this is what's going to happen. But it's genetic apparently. So it's your mother's father. So if your mother's father's bald, bad luck. You're pretty well stuffed. But if your mother's father's good, then you'll be good. But it's not a bad thing to be bald, mate. It's just got to own it these days. You can't do a comb over or anything like that.
If we're going to concede and just shave it all off? Or?
Well, I've done that a few times actually. It's just, like normally it's actually much shorter. It's just that during COVID, I sort of went to the warehouse and bought my own clippers before the lockdown. Panic buying, of course. And so just been doing it myself, and so it's a bit rough,
Yeah. I just want to touch on Gareth Morgan really quickly. Has he ever asked you if he can come and hunt then skin cats on your farms?
No.
Would you let him?
No,
fair enough. So away from Gareth Morgan, it's enough. Yeah. It's given him enough airtime.
Yeah.
So Jamie Strange was here last week, and he was absolutely mouthing off about your pens.
How about that?
He said his pens were sleeker and just all around better quality. So, but the general consensus here on campus is that yours are better. So, do you think Jamie was a bit out of depth on this topic, or?
Well, as Winston says, imitation is the best form of flattery you can get. It's amazing how now there's red pens available on campus in election year, when there used to only just be the blue ones. But mine are really good. I've never used his, but I think they're black. So why would you give out a black pen when you're from the red party? At least mine are blue pens, blue colour, blue ink. They write really well. They're chunky and they're super cheap, and we just go through thousands of them, and they last forever and a day. And I've got a box at the office, and because in the campaign period we're not allowed to give them out, so because it would be electioneering if we gave the pens out, and we still get requests from students wanting bags of them even through the election campaign, and I wish I could give them out, but just say if someone happened to go to the office and take one, I couldn't stop them,
Yeah, fair enough. So what do you think the biggest accomplishment you've made in your MP career is so far?
Well, I think the first thing is the expressway, that's a massive investment in Waikato, $2.1 billion. It's actually, if you've driven to Auckland recently, it's just amazing having that Huntly bypass. Hamilton's going to come on end of next year. Should have been this year, but they've been pretty tardy. And so that's the biggest thing. And it's really changed Hamilton. Hamilton was always going to grow. It's all about location in life and property and things like that. And Hamilton is the right place at the right time. And we were always destined to grow, but now we're growing at a faster pace. And that means there's more opportunity for students to get jobs. If you're studying technology, IT, those things, there's a lot of jobs coming in the city now, which possibly you might have had 10 jobs, now you've got 50 jobs in there for graduates. Science has got a lot of jobs coming in there, and research and development. Even the things like services like law and accounting are building in the city as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for students to live and stay in the Waikato region now.
Yeah.
And that road has been crucial to enable that to happen.
Yeah. What's the biggest thing that your team wants to accomplish if you're elected?
The biggest thing I think is to actually have a forward-thinking and progressive New Zealand that is aspirational and willing to accept and challenge people to do the very best they can. So, we'll promise a lot of stuff around infrastructure and roads and water and schools and all that stuff, but in essence, what we really want to do is make sure the culture of New Zealand is a successful one where people work hard and they've got aspiration and they get the reward for that. And that's the crucial thing, because the government can do all it like on the side. The people actually make the country, and so you actually want to give them the tools to do that. So, if you delve deeper than the political promises of a campaign, I'd say that's the underlying theme that we want to have New Zealanders develop.
Yeah. So is Christopher Luxon going to be the next Prime Minister?
No.
No?
Judith Collins is.
Cool. So we've got a few things about abortion, gay marriage and euthanasia and what you voted on them and what you're going to. So you're going to vote no on the legalisation of
cannabis, So the parties...
So just justify your opinion on that.
Yeah, like, I guess, we've got enough drugs and, alcohol's our big drug of choice that we've got culturally in the Western world, and we've had that for centuries, and it will generate it even longer than that. And so it's been something that we accept, I guess, in the Western world, and it has its pitfalls, but it's a drug of choice that's been allowed. If you're extending that to other drugs like cannabis, there's generally a reluctance to do that because of the potential impacts it may have on people. And so I think we've got one drug of choice, and that should be enough. That's alcohol effectively. And if you go to a hospital at say 2:00 on a Saturday morning and go to the ED department and sit there for a couple of hours and see some of the people coming in and what they've been drinking or smoking or inhaling, you soon see why you wouldn't want your children to do that.
But weed doesn't really put people in hospital though, does it?
Well, it does actually. So if you look at the ones that are in there, like a lot of them are long-term users that are, because it does develop schizophrenia and other traits like that, and so there are a lot of young lives that are lost that they have long-term impact from smoking a lot of weed. So there'll be a lot of people say, well, I just have the odd puff and I'm fine, and it's only the odd time and it's all good, and why should we not be allowed to do that when we're allowed to drink? And that's the argument that's out there, and that's fine, and that's a reasonable argument, not denying that at all. But if it gets out of hand, and it can do, and that's what the whole point of a drug is. And you look at alcohol, there's many people that become alcoholics in life, and it's not hard for somebody to go down that path with a drug of becoming addicted. Then the long-term impacts are very detrimental.
Yeah. So I suppose one of the other sides of the argument is in America, where it's been legalised in a lot of the states, the top three biggest revenue earners in terms of tax for it have each brought in around $300 million per year, and it's all being spent on rehabilitation and research into all that. So
but if you look at smoking, for example, that's a big tax earner for the government. Yeah, and yet we're increasing the prices day by day to try and stop people smoking. We don't want to keep it as a tax earner for the government, because the downstream effect we pay on our health system is much more than any tax effect we get. So, lung cancer, all those sort of cancers that are a result of smoking in many cases cost us a lot more as a country and to families and individuals than that tax take ever will be. And if you look at the drug culture in the US and things like that, there's no way that the money they'll earn from those drugs will in any way compensate for the loss of human life, the loss of human prospects around careers and families that have been lost through drug abuse. So it is able to, you can argue that, but it's not. I don't think it's the argument that would sway it, because there's so many costs that are hidden around drug abuse. Yeah,
cool. Good answer. So you said yes to abortion, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm getting slammed for it.
So are you by your own party or?
No. Well, it's there's a mix within your party, but I still get emails each week from people saying, I always voted for you, but I can't vote for you because you voted for abortion. I go door knocking on people open the door and say, I'm never going to vote for you because you voted for abortion. You have to respect everyone's view. But you sat there, and if you sat in those debates, and the clincher for me was Nicola Willis. She stood up and spoke, and a young woman, she's got 4 children. Far be it for me to understand what a woman goes through, or what or her thoughts or feelings. but she explained that it's her choice, her decision, and she didn't think that we should be making that for her. And you know, how are you going to say no to that? Okay.
Yeah.
And there are some people have very strong religious views that think that the legislation is going to promote abortion. Well, let's be honest about it. There's thousands of abortions go on this every year in New Zealand. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're really that against abortion, you wouldn't be worried about the legislation as it is now or what it was changed to. You'd actually be looking at no abortions.
Yeah.
And the people that argue for it know that that's unrealistic in these times. And the other thing is that it was a conscience vote, and so in the National Party that is a true conscience vote. We have the ability to decide where we want to vote. The Labour Party doesn't have conscience votes. Now they'll say they do, but they don't. So what they actually do is this was a government bill. They had like 85 votes for it on the first reading. Jamie was one that voted for it on the first reading, and then after about the second or third reading they let 10 or 12 slip away to make it look like they got a broad church. They did the same with marriage equality, and then at the end they never let enough of a slip away that they would lose the vote.
Yeah.
So it's not a true conscience vote for them. They're whipped into voting, and then they're able to choose as they go through their process, but they're only able to choose as long as they don't lose the vote.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of people on the religious right saying, well, we're going to vote for somebody else now because you voted for abortion. Your conscience isn't my conscience.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying to them, well, don't worry about my conscience. You know, it's got nothing to do with it. The effect is that the conscience vote's not going to save you from the next level agenda. And Jacinda will have an agenda there, and I don't know what it is, but it will not stop at marijuana and it won't stop at abortion. And if those people that are really struggling with that agenda want to stop it, I tell you the conscience votes of the MPs in Parliament is not going to stop it. The only way to stop it is if you get a national government in there, because we won't be putting up that kind of agenda. And if it comes through as a members' bill, fine, but we don't put those agendas up. We don't do the social change that Labor have been promoting. So you know, it may be a bit blunt, but effectively, if people actually are of that opinion that they don't want that agenda, then voting for a candidate other than myself is not going to help them.
Yeah, cool. So you voted no for gay marriage? Right?
Yes.
So
I voted for yes for it.
You voted yes. Okay, so justify that.
Oh, like as say with abortion, I'm not going to judge anybody. If somebody wants to be married in a homosexual relationship or with a male or female partner, I don't care.
Yeah,
it doesn't worry
it doesn't
me.
affect you.
No, it's their choice. I'm very happy to let people have their own choice and respect their views. So no, I voted yes for that. Yeah.
And euthanasia, you voted no?
I voted no for that. I'm probably I'm starting to think twice about that. I probably will vote yes for it in the referendum.
Oh yeah.
I voted no because partly it was David Seymour's bill. Sorry about that, Josh. But also because I think I talked to him about it. I said, well, we need another level of testing there. Like you got two doctors, right?
Yeah.
And I would have preferred if there was a specialist opinion in there as well. So you could potentially have two doctors set up a practice and just do it online and approve people's things. But if a specialist, I think it gives another higher degree of approval required. He wasn't willing to move on any terms of it, and so it went through as is. Probably the more I think about it, the more I probably will vote for it.
Yeah.
Like in the end of the day, it's one of those things that it might not be perfect, but
yeah.
It's a lot of legislation is not perfect.
It's good to see you open-minded about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not too worried about that. Like the abortion one was much harder because you got a lot more comment from your constituents. And the marriage equality one was a lot harder as well because there were a lot of people against those two. And to go for them when you're in a Conservative party did take a bit of a hit.
Yeah. What's your stance on climate change? You're the agricultural spokesperson for the National Party. What will be your efforts to slow down the effects of climate change?
Well, I think the first thing is we've got to acknowledge what farmers do already and businesses. It's not just farmers. all of us have got a responsibility in climate change. You're going to see a mass movement to electric vehicles over time. Industries getting much cleaner in the way they process and do their manufacturing processes. Farmers are investing a lot of research into how they can look at methane and other issues like that, and fencing of their properties and such like. So there's a lot of movement across the board. There's no doubt that we will have to become more sustainable in whatever we do.
Yeah.
So whether it's in the urban or rural environments, we're going to have to be more sustainable in the practices we engage in. There's a lot of things that we live our daily lives. Just look at the packaging. That we're always dealing with. Everything we buy is packaged, and that's going to have to change at some point.
Yeah.
The way the technology is going to have to embrace, cleaner technologies such as electric vehicles and such like that, heating for your homes. So all those things are going to change. In business as well, they're going to have to really make sure that they are as carbon neutral as they can be, and farmers have to move to that sustainability angle as well. And so there's no doubt we all have to move. It's just making sure that we can do that in a way which is constructive. And one of the issues that we had recently was some freshwater reforms that David Parker put forward, for example.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things in there that really does, upset the farming community, for example. And I'll give you one example, and that's the intensive winter grazing. And you might have seen the pictures of the paddocks in Southland with a lot of stock in there, and the winter grazing, and that's the way they do it. Now, if you look in the Waikato, it makes no difference to us, the winter grazing rule, okay?
Yeah.
Because the grass grows all the time. Our problem is in summer when it's dry.
Yeah.
In Southland, they have 100 days when nothing grows. So to keep this, but then during the summer and spring, they have massive growth.
Yeah.
Because they get the rain and it's a bit warmer then. So to keep the stock for the summer and winter, which produces the export dollars that we as a country live off, they winter graze the way they do. Now there's no doubt that they can do that better, and they're willing to look at ways to do that better, but a blanket ban on it, which is what the Minister had put forward, effectively, if it's at certain levels, would destroy their ability to farm down there to the level they are. That means less jobs in the freezing works, that means less jobs at Fonterra, that means less jobs in the towns that service them, that means less jobs for those in Hamilton that work for Fonterra, that means less jobs for those in Auckland that work for Fonterra and all the other vet companies and all those associated industries. And in a world where we've lost international education and tourism, and we've only got one big export earner left, and that's agriculture and horticulture. If you want to attack that to that degree, good luck for your country going forward, but you're not going to be able to survive without an export industry. Yeah. And so what we're saying is let's work with farmers. They're going to have to change practices, no doubt about it. But
has the National Party got any specific policies directed at farmers for it?
Yeah, well, we will. We've said that we're going to engage with the sector organisations like Beef and Lamb and Dairy NZ to work out processes that can be achieved on farm. Yeah. And work with farmers and others in the sector too, not just farmers, but councils and that. Yeah. So that's the plan of attack. But the blanket rule that was put in place didn't take into account farming practices there. And the farming practice is there for a reason, because the grass doesn't grow. I think we need to be sensible around how we deal with issues around climate change and make sure they're practical and rational and also science-based, and that's where we want to go.
Yeah, cool. So the last couple of elections you won the Ham East electorate fairly comfortably. So, but Jamie has been looking fairly strong. Are you worried?
Well, he was there last time, and you're always worried in election campaigns. You don't know how they're going to go. And the party vote's a little bit different this time from last time, where we had a much higher party vote than they did. That's going to be an impact on me. But in the end of the day, you can't be worried about what the result might be. Our job is one where you work hard, you put everything on the table, and then you just wait and see what the voters say in the end. We've delivered for Hamilton. While we were in government, we built the expressway. We did the first city to get broadband in New Zealand. We put 500 million into the hospital, built new schools in the north of the city. The one thing they promised was a train to Auckland for the Waikato. They cancelled a $400 million road from Cambridge to Paeri to build that train, and the train still hasn't started yet, right?
Yeah.
And it's for 160 people, and it's a diesel train that stops in Papakura, and it takes you twice the time to get to Papakura than if you drove to Papakura,
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make any sense. So, and we've lost the med school as a result of them as well.
Yeah.
So the two big things that could have come our way in the last 3 years were med school at this university.
That's your baby, isn't it?
Yep. and the road from Cambridge to Paeri, which would have been massive.
Yeah.
And those two things were cancelled. Basically, like they stopped the road and they stopped the tender process for the med school, and they gave us a train which they can't even deliver, and it's an idea that's never going to work.
Okay, cool. So who will be the leader of National at the election?
Judith.
You sure?
Yeah.
100%?
100%.
Okay, cool. So how will your policies affect students going forward?
So the main thing with students is that we want to make sure that you get a good job at the end of it. And the first thing there is that you need to make sure that your ticket that you get is worth what you've spent the time and effort on. And, and a difference between us and Labour is they'll spend more on student living costs and things like interest-free loans and all those sort of things that are there.
Yeah.
Whereas we want to spend more on the institutions so that you actually get the degree that you want at the end of it. And that's really important because you're in a competitive environment with the other university students around the Asia Pacific region and America and Britain and Europe. And it's all about the quality of the degree.
Yeah.
Will stand you in good stead for that first job and that first opportunity, and also as you progress through your career. So I think we need to, if I was a student, I'd be looking at the quality of the degree as the number one thing, not your living costs, even though it's tempting to do that as an initial stage. Second thing is that we're going to grow the economy because we're spending our money on infrastructure, not on social spending, and that means there's more jobs for students.
Yeah.
We don't want students to come out and then just go on to more government benefit or whatever. We want you to get into a high-paying career that gives you the ability to get the value out of your degree, and then you add value to the New Zealand economy and New Zealand community as well. So those are two ways that we would really, and if you look at locally here, we're really going to push the medical school option, and that would give Waikato, I think, the shot in the arm it deserves, and would enhance all degree structures here.
Yep.
and put Waikato at a new level within New Zealand universities and worldwide universities. So that's why we're pushing it.
Oh, cool. So we saw yesterday that Labour wants to have a new public holiday in honour of Matariki.
Yeah.
Which I think is great, to be honest.
Yeah.
But however, the question has arisen: is it the right time to implement that, or is it election strategy, or what are your thoughts on it?
I think it is the wrong time. And it's not whether you called the holiday something else. Whether it was National Day or Labour Day or whatever you want to call it. Whatever new holiday you wanted to create in New Zealand. I think you've got to be really careful around that. Our public holidays, we're probably one of the more generous ones in the Western world, in this part of the region, this part of the world. You look at the US, a smaller number of public holidays in comparison to us because they don't have your 4 weeks paid holiday as well. So I think they had something like 9 public holidays in the year, and that's all you get.
Yeah.
And whereas you get 11 or 14 or whatever it is here, plus your 4 weeks. So it's quite a generous system here, and you've got to remember that. You may think, that's cool, we've got a better lifestyle than they've got.
Yeah.
But the company and the place you're working for has to compete against them.
Yeah.
And if you're out of the office or you're out of the factory for a month more than they are, well, good luck with competing with them, okay? And that's the world you live in. We don't live Europe where everyone's on 6 months holiday or whatever. You're in Asia Pacific, the best part of the world, and that's why they work hard and they don't have too many holidays. And so if we want to put ourselves out of kilter with our neighbours, great, but you're going to pay the price for that. And all those things sound good, and they're good while you're taking them, but in the end, they're part of how we are not as productive as a country as we should be.
Yeah. So a lot of National's arguments to be elected include you guys having the experience to get the job done.
Yeah.
Would that be right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But however, you guys have had a lot of people leave recently, like Amy Adams, Nikki Kay, Paul Bennett.
Yeah.
And we've seen with the current government that a lot of their ministers didn't have government or like ministerial roles before they were in government, obviously, and a lot of them have sort of gone belly up. And it's sort of starting to look like you guys might have a lot more people in your caucus that haven't had ministerial roles. So how can you assure us that the same thing won't happen to you guys if you're elected?
Well, it's the culture of the party. It's not so much that you've had a ministerial role. Yeah, we've still got a core group of people that have, like, Simon Bridges was a minister, and Judith was a minister, I was a minister, Jerry was a minister. So we've still got a core group there, but that's not what it's about. And that when we say that we will deliver, it's not because we've been ministers before and we'll do it again. It's the people we attract to our party, first of all. You got people like, Mr. Luxon that you mentioned before, high profile, very successful entrepreneurial managers that could easily fit into the government mechanism and no trouble about delivery there. So we've got candidates like that all the way through. You look at someone like Shane Retty that's really just blossomed in the last couple of months. Before he's never had cabinet material experience, but he's obviously showing he's got the goods to be able to do it. So it's partly that we attract the people that can do that, and secondly, it's the culture of the organisation too. Like when I was minister, if something was going wrong, John Key would have expected you to pick it up on the Monday. And if you hadn't picked it up by the Monday, on Wednesday you would have got a visit from Stephen or Bill saying, why haven't you picked this up, and you better sort it by Friday. Yeah. And if you hadn't sorted it by Friday, you were gone, right? Yeah. Effectively, that's how it worked. And, whereas in Labour it's, sorry you missed that. It must have been hard that you didn't get that. Let's do a working group and a review of that and see what happened, and let's try and manage it next time.
Would you put that down to private sector experience?
No, they're just lefties. Yeah, and it's just the culture of how they operate, because they can't make a decision. Yeah. That was the great failure of things like communism, and that they just can't make a decision. Well, these guys are exactly the same. They get tied up in reviews because they can't actually say yes or no. That everything's got to be, maybe we'll look at it, and give me more time to think about it, and that. And they're just not decision-making people. And that's a lot of them have shown that in their careers before they went into politics, whereas, someone like Chris Luxon is a decision-making person, and so, that's the difference of who we attract and the different culture that we have as a party. Yeah.
So you've had a lot of leaders in the past year. Could you please rank them and explain why you've put them where you've put them?
I could have put Judith first. Well, she put me on the front bench, so no, she's number one in my book. Simon and Todd, Todd had a very brief stint as leader, and it just shows the toughness of the role. And Simon did the hard yards, though. He did 2 or 3 years of really hard work that he didn't get much credit for. Public sort of abused him a bit, and he was put down for doing some of that hard job of actually being an opposition leader against the popular PM at the time. So, I think he feels like he might be a bit hard done by it all, that he's done all that hard work and didn't get the credit for it. But
is that why you're putting him in third?
No, I'm not ranking the second and third ones that easily. I probably would put him second, and probably Todd third, because I think Simon did do those those hard yards, and he really did miss out on it. You know, but in saying that, Judith is the right one to take us to the election. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that the timing is just how it is, and I think Judith is the right one.
Yeah.
So she's number one.
Yeah. So if you're running a management consulting or financial advisory firm, you probably wouldn't hire someone without relevant qualifications or experience, right? So there's one thing that sort of bothers me about politics. For example, Grant Robertson's private sector experience is minimal at best, and if I'm honest, Paul Goldsmith's isn't exactly flash either. So my question to you is, why don't your party or others put people with more relevant experience in those roles? For example, Minister of Finance or spokesperson. You'll also have lawyers Upston, Andrew Bailey, or maybe even yourself, who have that private sector experience.
Yeah. Well, I think the you generally try and do that. Okay, so like Shane Reddy for Health, he's a doctor, been to Harvard. So he's our natural health spokesperson. Yeah. Simon Bridges was the Crown prosecutor, lawyer, natural justice spokesperson. Myself, I've been farming, so I'm naturally in the agricultural sector for that. Then you come to some roles which, like finance, that we had someone like Bill in there last time that I think his degree was in history or something like that, and then he went on to,
I think it's English or history or something.
And then he went on to treasury and then politics, and so he had an inkling of it, but he really developed in that role. And so Goldie he's somebody that's a very smart individual. He can adapt, and he has got a strong commercial sense to him. Yeah. Epsom electorate, of course, the home of capitalism in New Zealand, you could say. So he does represent that, and he's learnt very well, and he's done a great job at it, And so I don't think you would discount him on that. And even to say with Grant, I think that he has actually outperformed what I thought he would perform in that role. I think he's actually done better as Minister of Finance than I presumed he would have done. And so, sometimes they do develop. Yeah. And that's why we have a lot of people coming in that have got credentials in that area. Chris will be one. Jake Bazant's got a good solid commercial background as well. So you've got people coming in with commercial backgrounds as well. Yeah. That will be part of it. And as I say, Bailey's part of the team that's around Goldsmith, and there's others of us there that interact with him. So it's just not one person. There's probably 5 or 6 people that have got a financial focus that are working with him. Chris Bishop helps out a bit too because he's doing the infrastructure side of it. So there's a group that work together. Yeah, cool. So we know your opponent for the Hammer's lecturer, James Strange. He used to have a bit of a musical background, if you will, Christian rock band. Yeah. And we've stumbled across some interesting images from his old music videos. Oh, I think I might have seen that. So would this look familiar to you? No. Seriously? Looks like some interesting relations with I've seen those before.
He told us about what he eventually did with the mannequin the other day. What did you do with it? He eventually sold it to a truck driver who was, felt lonely sometimes. Fetched about $100 for it. No. No shit. Do I get a copy of this? Have them. All yours. All yours. So just before we go, who's going to be the leader of the National Party election? Judith Collins. Judith? Really? Did I get 3 out of 3 right? I don't know. We'll see. So cheers for taking the time to come in. And no worries, Josh. Good stuff. Great. Very good. Thanks everyone, and have a great rest of the year and enjoy your studies. Cool. Cheers.